MTG Burgeoning community, welcome back. YouTube viewing audience, welcome back. If you are still part of the latter and have yet to join the former, you can change that all right now by clicking the subscribe button below. By doing so, you become eligible for this channel's reward series, all of which you can peruse in the description below. It's Friday, so that means the kitchen table series continues. And in today's 25th Deck Tech video, we are featuring Abzan Hunting Grounds. Hello, welcome back, Burgeonites. Here we go. It is MTG Burgeoning. It is Friday, so it's got to be time for Kitchen Table Friday. If you are unfamiliar with this series, we take a look at some decks from MTG Burgeoning's past and present with which he's had success at the kitchen table. Some decks are fair, some decks are unfair, some decks are fun, and some decks are just ridiculous. But this is the 25th installment of this series. It is the longest running series of our channel, and I'm happy to say we are completing the color pie. We started with 5 monocolor decks, then we went through the 10 two-color decks, and now this is 10 out of 10, and we're finishing it off with Abzan Hunting Grounds. Customarily, we would begin with the land base when we start talking about a deck tech for the kitchen table series. But no, today we're going to start with the actual reason why this deck was put together, and that is to play around a card from Judgment called Hunting Grounds. Hunting Grounds is an enchantment that costs a green and a white, and it has the threshold mechanic, and it can only be utilized if our graveyard has at least 7 cards. So the threshold mechanic says whenever an opponent plays a spell, we may put a creature card from our hand into play. So as long as there are at least 7 cards in our graveyard, and we've got a Hunting Grounds in play, if our opponents cast a spell, we're putting a creature from our hand into play. 4 copies of Hunting Grounds. That's going to start things off. Now we will transition to our land base. We're going to start off with our basics. We've got 2 plains. We got 2 swamps. We've got, I did say this was Abzan, even though Hunting Grounds is Selesnya colors. We're throwing black in there because we got some choice cards in black that we want to include in this deck. 4 basics there, 4 more basics here. That's 4 forests for a total of 8 basic lands so far. All right, now let's get into some non-basic lands. Here we go. We got 1 playset of Overgrown Tomb. It is our Golgari Shock Land. 4 copies, Golgari Tomb, to help smooth out that mana base. Speaking of mana base smoothing, we got 4 copies of the Selesnya check land, Sun Petal Grove. Enters the battlefield tapped, unless we control a forest or plains. Taps for a green or taps for a white, and we're playing with 4 copies of that. So we've got our 8 basics, we got 8 non-basics there, and to round out the land base, we have another trip back to Judgment. We have a play set of Nantuko Monastery. It's a land, it taps for 1 colorless mana, and it also has the threshold mechanic. So as long as we have at least 7 cards in our graveyard, we can tap green and white, and Nantuko Monastery becomes a 4/4 green and white creature with first strike until end of turn. 4 copies of Nantuko Monastery. These are included in the deck because if we have a Hunting Grounds in play, it may dawn on our opponents, well, I just won't cast any spells. Well, then the clock is going to be ticking because you can only take so many points of damage from the Nantuko Monastery before it becomes imperative for you to start casting some spells. So that's why a playset of that land from Judgment is being played in this deck. And to round out our mana, of course, if it's kitchen table, we got a copy of Soul Ring, baby. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. All right, so how are we going to get cards from our graveyard? How are we going to get cards from our library into our graveyard? We don't want them to go anywhere from our graveyard yet, but we do want to get them from our library into our graveyard. So let's start with one of the best cards that we can play, Krufix's Insight. 2 and a green, it's a sorcery. We reveal the top 6 cards of our library, put up to 3 enchantment cards from among them into our hand, and the rest of the revealed cards into our graveyard. So not only can Krufix's Insight fill our graveyard in order to, trigger our threshold, but we can also get additional copies or 1 copy of Hunting Grounds from among those 6, or from among the 6 cards that are being revealed. If we don't have any copies of Hunting Grounds in our hand, Krufix's Insight will bring at least 1 copy up into our hand. 4 copies, Krufix's Insight. Staying on that same theme, we're going to play with a playset of Benefaction of Ronus. 2 and a green, we reveal the top 5 cards of our library. We may put a creature card and or an enchantment card from among them into our graveyard. From among them into our hand, and then put the rest into our graveyard. So again, this could fill our graveyard. This could return a hunting grounds from the cards revealed into our hand. Or we can get one of the choice creatures in this deck. That's also going to be a good option too once you start seeing the creatures included in this deck. 4 copies of Benefaction of Ronus. So that's going to be 8 copies total of a way in which to fill our graveyard and return some potential enchantments or potential creatures. For insurance purposes, in case our opponents are unwilling to cast spells with Hunting Grounds on the battlefield, then we have the way in which to force the issue by playing with a full play set of Living Death. 3 and 2 black, each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards they exile this way onto the battlefield. So either way, the creatures from the graveyard are coming into play, the creatures from our card are coming into play one way or another, either with Hunting Grounds or by casting Living Death. All right, so kind of dropping into our creatures now, we are going to play with a full play set of Birds of Paradise. We're playing 3 colors and we're in green, so we have to have some kind of a mana dork out there, and Birds of Paradise is one of the best ones we can put in there. It's a green, it's a 0/1, it flies, so it can be a chump blocker extraordinaire in the mid to late game, or maybe even the early game if we needed to. But most importantly, we turn this baby sideways and it gives us 1 mana of any color. So on turn 2, we have the ability to cast a Benefaction of Ronus or a Krufix's Insight. 4 copies, Birds of Paradise. Next up, we are going to play with 2 copies of Eternal Witness. I actually prefer the original art more than the newer art. Eternal Witness, in case there's something in our graveyard that we really need to get that accidentally got put there from a Benefaction of Ronus or from a Krufix's Insight. So we all know Eternal Witness, 1 double green, 2/1 body. When it enters the battlefield, we return a card from our graveyard to our hand. 2 copies of Eternal Witness. All right, now we're going to transition into our biggins. These are the creatures that we want in our hand when our opponents trigger Hunting Grounds. These are the creatures we want in our graveyard when we need to cast a Living Death. So we're going to start off with 2 copies of Primeval Titan. That's right, baby. Prime Time is in this deck. 4 double green. It's a 6/6 giant with trample. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, we search our library for 2 lands and put them onto the battlefield tapped. That's it. Just a straight beat down land fetching giant, the Primeval Titan is. And we are happy to play with 2 copies. Next up, we're going to run a full play set of Runescarred Demon. 5 double black, it's a 6/6 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, we Demonic Tutor. 4 copies, Runescarred Demon. Another playset of a demon, Overseer of the Damned. Same CMC as Runescarred Demon, but it does a few different things. It's still a flyer, it's still a demon, it's a 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, we may destroy target creature. And whenever a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, we create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. So Overseer of the Damned can come into play, destroy one of our opponent's creatures, and then we get to put a nice 2/2 black zombie into play. 4 copies, Overseer of the Damned. Now we're starting to see the power of getting these creatures into play for free, no? All right, with that in mind, let's transition from big, scary flying demons to an angel. And that's going to be the Angel of Despair. It's a 5/5 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, we destroy target permanent. That's it. Doesn't have to be a creature. Doesn't have to be anything. Just anything we want it to be. 4 copies, Angel of Despair. Next up, we're down to our last 4 creatures, and they are the biggest, baddest ones we have. Say hello to 2 copies of Razaketh the Foul-Blooded. 5 and triple black, it's an 8/8 flying trampler. We pay 2 life, we sacrifice another creature, we search our library for a card, and put that card into our hand. So, for example, if our Birds of Paradise down there, or any 2/2 zombies created by Overseer of the Damned are no longer useful, we'll pay 2 life, we'll sacrifice them, we'll search our library, we'll grab an Angel of Despair, or maybe a Prime Time, or maybe a Rune-Scarred Demon in order to get another body onto the battlefield, or maybe we're just crazy enough to say, hey, look, Rune-Scarred Demon came into play, let's sacrifice him, get him out of there with a Razaketh ability, grab ourselves a Living Death, do some ridiculous graveyard shenanigans. Razaketh the Foul-Blooded, 2 copies. Very, very good. All right, the last 2 copies we have of this deck. The most powerful angel for such a long time. If you were playing Magic when this one came out back in the day, I'll tell you, there was very little anyone can do about it. 2 copies, Achroma, Angel of Wrath. 5 and triple white as a 6/6. It's got flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black, and protection from red. So pretty much protection from some of the most important removal spells that Magic has. Outside, of course, Swords to Plowshare and Path to Exile. But dropping down on Achroma, if you're sitting across a black mage, that's good game, folks. That is good game. 2 copies of Achroma, Angel of Wrath. And folks, Burgeonites, that is deck number 25 of the Kitchen Table series. This is Abzan Hunting Grounds. Let's take this bad boy on Safari and see how we do. All right, so in past kitchen deck tech play testing that we've done here on the channel, we've said that, you know, probably around turn 5, turn 4, maybe turn 6, probably around that 5-6 range, you want to be posing an immediate game-winning threat, particularly if you're playing, you know, free-for-all, multiplayer, maybe even if you're just dueling. However, for all intents and purposes with this Abzan deck, we seriously, by turn 3, by the time our turn 3 is over, we seriously want to have at least 7 cards in the graveyard, and we want to have a Hunting Grounds in play. That is what we are looking to do. So we're looking turn 1, Soul Ring or Birds. Turn 2, we're playing Krufix's Insight, or we are playing Benefaction of Ronus. And then by turn 3, Hunting Grounds is down, and we're ready to do some damage. Let's see how we can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's number 7. I'm going to pull the deck a bit over this time because you want to make sure we can show the graveyard and what we got in there. There's our turn counter. All right, here we go. Kitchen Table Series, deck tech number 25. Good start. Okay, give us a couple of them. There's a white. There's the Nantuko Monastery. There's the birds. Oh, give us the forest. Oh, no. Well, let's keep. Let's keep. We draw. Not a good one. All right. We'll play our planes. This is turn 2. And we drew our Hunting Grounds, but see, if we had the forest, we had it. If we had the forest, we had it right there, folks. Duh. Play the forest. Rats. All right, so turn 3. There we go. All right, now we're going to tap our 3 lands. Just like that. And we are going to cast Krufix's Insight. Cast that, goes to the graveyard. We're revealing the top 6. In goes an Overgrown Tomb, and a Rune-Scarred Demon, another Rune-Scarred Demon, an Achroma, a Plains, and then lastly, a Sunpetal Grove. We will return... Oh, we can't. That's the enchantment one. All right, so then we pass the turn. We move to turn 4. We untap. And not too shabby. We're going to draw another Benefaction of Ronus. That's not terrible. What we will do, however, is we're going to put 1, 2, and we're going to throw Hunting Grounds out there immediately. Just for the purposes of having it out there. Because we've got some big bad boys in our hand right now. And then we want to make sure that we can do something with them. So let's just say that haphazardly, or not caring, or our opponents don't really know what's going on in our hands, somebody casts a spell, and we put an Overseer of Damned into play. And we just end up pinging and just crushing one of our opponent's creatures, and we put a tapped 2/2 zombie into play. It's looking pretty darn good at this point. So we'll move to turn 5. We're going to untap. We're going to draw our card for turn. Oh, look at that, a Living Death. Isn't that just a beautiful card? We don't have the mana to cast it yet, but that's not bad, because we're going to fill our opponents with a great deal of trepidation, and that's going to be all right. So you know what? Let's tap off for a forest. We'll cast a birds just to get some more board presence. We pass the turn because we're just waiting. Of course, we could attack with the Overseer of the Damned. More importantly, however, if one of our opponents decides to cast a spell, maybe they're trying to destroy Hunting Grounds, which, let's say somebody does. They cast the spell, we put Razaketh into play. And now that Razaketh is into play, we got a zombie we can get rid of. We've got a bird that I'd rather keep right there so that we can cast this Living Death. We can just sacrifice the zombie. Oh, just so many good things we can do right now. So that turned out to be a fairly decent first play test. Turn 6 comes up, we draw a swamp. That's beautiful. So we could cast, if we wanted to, we could cast a Living Death, and for all intents and purposes, with an Acroma and 2 Runescarred Demons, I'm casting, actually what I'm probably going to do is I'm paying 2 life. We're going to sacrifice that Overseer of the Damned. We're going to search for probably another Hunting Grounds. We're going to pay 2 life. We're going to sacrifice that Birds of Paradise. Oh, no, we can't sacrifice the bird. Don't sacrifice the bird, because then we can't cast the Living Death. Yeah, that's going to work out pretty well. All right, not too bad for the first play testing. Let's see if we can do better with the second one. Okay, so admittedly, play test number 1 was not too bad. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, and if only that Nantuko Monastery would have been a forest, we really would have shown how quick this deck could jump out. I included those cards recently because the opponents were just holding back and not casting anything. What I should do is I should put in a playset of Black Vice. That would that might slow that down a bit. All right, so let's do it differently. Let's put the library here, because we're getting a pretty bad glare from the graveyard on that side. So let's do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a new year. It's 2021, the first kitchen table series of the year. Here we go. All right, Benefaction of Ronus, Prime Time, Angel of Despair. Okay, I'm not liking this so far. Oh, this has Mulligan written all over it. Oh, yeah. Don't even need to reconsider. No lands. Oh. So we'll do some heavy shoveling here off camera real quickly. Then we'll put it back on camera. Okay, and we're going to do better. We'll go down to 6, but that was definitely something that we needed to do. And when this deck gets rolling, when we get a Primeval Titan out there early enough and we're getting lands and we're attacking, it gets to the point where we don't even really need the Hunting Grounds anymore. I mean, it definitely is. It's the reason why the deck is built, and opponents are going to have to respond to our threats. And let's be honest, creature removal is included a lot more than enchantment removal, at least in my playing history, in my experiences. Not many people atone to, or not many people take into account that an enchantment could really take over an entire game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll take that all the way to the bank. Here we go. Oh man, this is looking like the exact hand I just shuffled in. Oh no! Oh, seriously? Duh. Well, I know when I'm licked. So we're just going to say that game number 2 is going to be a bit rough. We're going to go one more time. Oh my goodness. Really? Really? All right. Maybe we'll get the dream hand. It only takes a few cards. Like I said earlier, it only takes, you know, turn 1 Soul Ring off of a forest. It's not impossible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, there's our birds. Okay, so we've already got 2 of the 3 cards we need. Give us the forest. There's the forest. All right, give us a hunting grounds. Give us a hunting grounds. All right, it's not terrible. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put back those 2. So best case scenario is turn 1 or turn 2, we can draw a hunting grounds, have it in our hand, because turn 1, those birds are coming out. So by turn 2, we'll have the 3 mana when we play the plains, and we're going to cast the Benefaction of Ronus. Alright, let's see. Here we go. Maybe we'll get lucky. Here we go. Alright, baby. You ready, Burgeonites? Turn 1, a birds. Not terrible. Tap that. Birds. Turn 2, Moment of Truth. Moment of Truth. Oh, Overgrown Tomb. Not terrible. Let's play the... let's play the plains. Tap 1, 2, 3. We'll cast Krufix's Insights. Maybe here we'll grab one of our enchantments. What do we think? There's 1. There's 2. There's 3, 4, 5... and 6. Nothing. No going. No hunting grounds. Alright. This isn't looking great now. Let's see what we can do. We draw a card. Oh, we drew the hunting grounds. That makes me happy. We will pay the 2 life for our Overgrown Tomb to come into play untapped. We will tap that to play a birdie. We will tap our white and a green. Bam! And we'll put a hunting grounds that's online. Now, unfortunately, we've only got the 1 creature, but still, it's going to ramp us up a couple of lands. So let's just say someone casts something, we play Primeval Titan. We're going to search our library for a couple of lands here, and we're going to put an Overgrown Tomb and a Sunpetal Grove. Alright, so what I'm guessing here is best case scenario for the next card we draw, which most likely will end our playtesting experience here for deck tech number 25. Best case scenario here, we draw a Living Death. We attack with the Primeval Titan. Primeval Titan will get us a couple more lands, then we cast Living Death, bring out all those huge biggins from our graveyard. Let's see. Turn 4. All right, high suspense, Benefaction of Rummage, but we can get a creature here. So let's see, just to see what we can get. Let's tap 3, we'll cast the Benefaction of Ronus. 5 cards, we'll get a creature. Oh, Razaketh. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we will bring Razaketh to our hand, and we know that our opponents are going to cast any spells then, because if they do, this bad boy's going into play. Those birds are going to get sacrificed. We're bringing a Living Death into our hand and a couple of other beauties too. I gotta tell you, that worked out pretty well, folks. Abzan Hunting Grounds. We went down to 5. We went down to 5 on that mulligan as well. All right, I think that's going to do it for today. Again, this is MTG Burgeoning. This is the Friday Kitchen Table Series. This is deck tech number 25. Our longest running series of the channel. MTG Burgeoning here, folks. Go forth, enjoy yourselves and each other.